across America, it's always a great day to make a new friend on my show, the Dean Olson Hollywood Interview.
Dean Olson Hollywood Interview. Dean Olson Hollywood Interview. Dean Olson Hollywood Interview.
From Anaheim to Hollywood and all across America, it's always a great day to make a new friend on my show, the Dean Olson Hollywood Interview. This is where I get to chat for about an hour with many of the great actors and personalities that graced the big and small screen when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s. And today is no exception, as you will soon find out from today's featured guest. The man you're seeing on the screen with me is Dean Butler. He's an actor, director, and producer who you will surely recognize as Almanzo Wilder on the NBC TV series Little House on the Prairie. Now, Dean has worked plenty since the show wrapped in 1983, but he has contributed a great deal to its legacy over the years, including a 50th anniversary event in December of 2025. Don't have a lot of time with this man, but it's an honor, really an honor to meet and welcome to the show, Mr. Dean Butler.
Well, Dean, thank you. From one Dean to another.
And the crowd goes wild, Dean.
Nice to be. Yes, I hear them. I hear them in my imagination. I hear them. Yeah. So, I've been I feel like I've been very blessed to be a part of the Little House world. And, I am not a religious person particularly at all, but I do feel very blessed on a very human level to be associated with something that is as beloved as Little House is and has been for 50 plus years, which is just in and of itself an extraordinary thing.
Yeah, you got that right. And it is, you see the reruns all the time. It's been on for quite a, it's been, since it's been in syndication, it's everywhere.
It is. Last year, I'll tell you, Dean, last year on Peacock, which is NBC streaming service, which was relatively new back in 2018, 19, when the pandemic hit, they made a decision to add Little House to their running, their repertory of huge amounts of content that they have on Peacock. Mm-hmm. Last year in 2024, Little House was streamed 13.3 billion minutes, which is the equivalent of 25,000 years in a single year. So, it does tell you that there is really a wonderful, devoted audience that continues to embrace these stories that were told, as you referenced a moment ago, back in the early 1970s, early to mid 1970s. But they've been there, they've never gone away, and they continue to resonate with people because of their fundamental honesty about the human condition. I think Little House offers, in episode after episode, foundational truths about living a good life. And it's couched in tear-jerking episodes, funny episodes, but these themes of humanity and goodness and decency weave their way through episode after episode of the program. And it's not, look, it's sentimental. There's no question it's sentimental, but it's not cloying, which some shows like this can be. It's not that. There is always a tone of something that's realistic in the way that people communicate with each other, and the circumstances that people find themselves in are at times pretty extraordinary and very relevant to any time. In fact, I think, Dean, I don't think our program has been more relevant or important than it is right now, given the state of the world that we're in right now. I think Little House has something to say about how we treat each other that is as important as it's ever been.
Where do you think that comes from? Do you think Michael Landon had a lot to do with the tone of the show and how it was perceived? And he worked with, it's escaping me, who's the guy from who was with Laugh-In that he worked with? What's the man?
Oh, well, you're talking about Ed Friendly.
Ed Friendly, thank you.
Ed Friendly was the rights holder. He acquired the rights to the book from Roger Lee McBride, who was the adopted grandson of, and that was a nice way, the adopted grandson of Rose Wilder Lane.
Oh, yeah.
Rose was Laura Ingalls Wilder's only child. Rose did not have children of her own. Roger McBride was her attorney. When she set up her will, she left everything to him, and he was found by Ed Friendly after Ed read a copy of one of the books on a flight between Los Angeles and New York on a business trip, and got off the plane and rushed to a phone when you still had to find a payphone in the airport terminal. Called his attorney and said, "Find me the person who owns the rights to these books. I've got to get them." From there was a multi-step effort that took him through at least a couple of writers. One writer, one writing group, or one person, and I don't know that person's name, wrote the first pilot. The second pilot adaptation was written by a successful television writer named Blanche Hanalis. And that is the copy of the script that was sent to Michael. And Michael and Ed both lived in Beverly Hills. And on a Sunday morning, Ed sent his daughter Brooke up the street in Beverly Hills to drop a copy of the Blanche Hanalis script into Michael's mailbox. And in the afternoon, this was on a Sunday morning. And on Sunday afternoon, the phone rang at Ed's house, and it was Michael on the phone, and he wanted to come down and talk about it. And he came down. What Ed really wanted was for Michael to direct the show. He was looking to Michael as a possible director of a pilot.
Oh, okay.
Michael came down and said, "I love this. Not only do I want to direct it, I want to star in it as well." And I think it was an interesting turn for him, as much as Bonanza, which of course is where Michael became a superstar. As much as Bonanza was a family program, no question, but it wasn't. Little Joe Cartwright was a guy with a fast mouth and a quick trigger finger, and
right.
Could get into a fight and was a ladies' man and all of that. And here he traded that. I mean, Michael was always going to be a glamorous guy, but he traded that to be a poor dirt farmer in Minnesota in the 1880s, and it's late 1870s to the 1880s. And I thought, when you think about it, it's sort of an extraordinary turn. It's not a turn that a lot of television stars might make, but I think my belief is that Michael saw, not only in that script, but in the underlying source material, a kind of human goodness and humanity that really spoke to him in a profound way. And he realized that this kind of messaging was what his audience wanted from him, because it's what they'd gotten from him at its core for all those years of Bonanza. And he loved this period, Dean, because it was old when it was new. It was never going to go out of fashion, because it was never in fashion. It was always some other time and place. Mm-hmm. I think Michael was incredibly astute about this kind of the packaging of something, the way an audience would look at something. You're looking at Little House and you're already detached from it. You're not wearing the same clothes that they are. You're not driving the same cars. You're not living in the same neighborhoods. There's just, everything is different. And so it becomes this little bubble of a world that an audience can step into each week and find a microcosm of the larger world that they do live in, but that's a different world that they're watching.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you can tell all those stories about all those kinds of people and all of those situations. And Michael used Little House. He used it very, very effectively to move into issues and themes that were a part of our world in the 1970s and 80s, but he could couch them allegorically in this Little House world. And it was very effective storytelling.
Yeah. So it was a little bit presumptuous to say that he kind of took that show under its wing and became his show, because
there's no question.
He was definitely the face of it, but I just think he had there were a lot of moving parts, and he was like he was like Papa to everybody, I think, on that whole set.
Yeah, I think no. Michael absolutely assumed control creatively of the show. I mean, the relationship, the partnership with Ed Friendly did not last a long time. What did last was the commitment to telling stories in this realm. That stayed consistent. But the way the stories were told, Michael had one approach to storytelling that was a different approach to the storytelling that Ed Friendly obviously wanted to do because it was, they just didn't agree on the tone. And it was sort of famously said, and this is second, third hand, but at the end of the first season, Michael went to NBC and said, well, you can make the show with Ed or you can make it with me, but you can't make it with both of us. So you guys decide what you want to do. Well, that was probably a pretty quick decision. I mean, Little House, by the end of its first season, was NBC's number one show. I mean, NBC did not have a lot of high-rated programming during those years, but Little House was the crown jewel of their primetime schedule. So I think the decision with Michael as one of NBC's most durable stars was just really easy, and it worked out well for everybody. It may not have been everybody's first choice that it went that way, but it worked out well for everybody in the long run.
Would you say that's sort of the definition of creative differences, Ed and Michael Landon? That's what happens
totally.
When they part like that?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, no, they had a very different view of what the show should look like. Now, I can't go into deep specifics about it. I'm aware of a few things, but I wasn't there. I just know from having been a student of the program that there were fundamental differences in how the show should look and feel. And Michael, I mean, if you'd ever spent any time around Michael Landon, anybody who did knew that Michael Landon was a very compelling presence. And when he believed something, he could make you believe it too. And, no one was going to, if you weren't going to get in line with what Michael's vision was, you weren't going to be around for a long time because he didn't have time, or I don't think he felt like he had time to negotiate every move. He just wanted to do what he wanted to do. And the audience was buying it. So there was no reason to tamper with that. And I think that's ultimately the decision that NBC made is this is working. Let's keep going with this.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. Wow. You now off the record, you and I were talking before we started this show, and I was complimenting you that you are a good spokesperson for this series or this whole phenomenon. And I must say, you talk like almost like you're a historian being interviewed about this whole project. And why not? You did write a book just recently, so it was. I think you have a lot to say on the subject, and I think a lot of your stuff holds weight. It's a lot of, you talk about compelling. The things that you're talking about are very compelling to me. So not having read that book, what is that called? It is called...
Oh, it's called Prairie Man, My Little House Life and Beyond.
Of course it is. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, of course you were. So, in 2022, I really started thinking about the fact that our 50th anniversary was coming. And I sort of realized that if there was ever going to be a time for me to write a book, that this was the time. There would be a lot of synergy around the program. There were a lot of heat around it. This was the right time to do it. And no men in our cast had written a book. So, there were 4 or 5 books by women, female cast members: Melissa Gilbert, Melissa Sue Anderson, Karen Grassley was working on a book, Charlotte Stewart had written a book, Ketty Lester, who played Hester Sue Terhune, was writing a book. By the time I was getting started with my project, even she's a woman now with children of her own, but one of our Little House family members, Wendy Lou Lee, who was one half of the Baby Grace pair, the little
Okay.
beautiful little blonde who was the baby of the Ingalls family. Wendy Lee was already had written her first book and was working on her second book, and she's working on a third book now. So there was a lot of commitment among women in the cast to writing books, and I just thought, it's time. If there's ever a time, it's now. And I prepared a proposal, and my friend Mary McDonough, who was Aaron Walton on the Waltons, walked into Kensington Publishing in New York, and the editor-in-chief called me the next day and made an offer, and that just sort of felt like kismet to me. And I said, let's do this. And so on January of 2023, on a rainy morning in January, I started writing this book, and we turned in the first draft to Kensington. I turned it into the Kensington at the end of July of 2023, and it was on bookshelves in June of 2024. So it's quite a process to put a book together. Books have a long birth. There's so much detail that has to be managed, and the multiple editors going through things, and the rewrites that you do to clarify, and make things flow better. The pictures you have to clear, all of that becomes quite time consuming. And then magically on the day it was supposed to publish, there were the boxes of books, and they came out, and it's been a really happy experience for me. I liked it so much. In September of 2024, I pitched a second book, and in January of 2025, they bought that book, and that book is in process now, called Living the Prairie Way. And it's really a book about values, and really highly motivated by the tone of what we're all living with in the world today. Highly motivated by that tone, and using Little House themes as the window or the doorway in to talking about how we're treating each other today. I think there's a lot of writing going on this particular topic, and I'm just doing it to speak to a Little House audience, which continues to be a robust, positive, well-connected audience. I'm speaking to them. And if anybody else wants to come along, great. But I'm speaking to that devoted Little House audience. And
that sounds
wonderful. We'll see how it goes.
Well, that's great. I appreciate the the sneak peek of what might be to come. So, and that sounds like a great idea for a second book. Not a sequel to what you did, but something entirely different, and then still related, because you're casting it toward that
Correct.
Audience, which
correct. I mean, I think
which is very receptive to that. By the way,
yeah, I think absolutely, and I think those of us anybody who's involved with anything that's had a long-term success. I think that it's a very natural and smart inclination to lean into that association. Little House in my life, Little House is that association that really, truly matters. And so I am going to lean into it because, it's available to me to lean into it, and I want to lean into it. And I feel like I have something I can say about what this particular topic is. And I know everyone's not going to, I know it's not going to be something that's going to just resonate gleefully with everybody. Not everybody's going to like this, but that's the world we live in today. We live in a much more complex world than we lived in even 10 years ago. Yeah. And
well, that's for sure. Yeah, there's some craziness going on. It's been brewing for a long time. So
yeah, that's true. And it's just it's all sort of come out in the open.
Yeah.
And so I think people have to speak up about how they feel about it.
Yeah. No, the book you're working on could be a good tonic for the soul, I think. So
could be. Yeah. I mean, I hope it's going to be for somebody. For some part of the audience, a readership, it will be, and for others, it'll be. I mean, I can predict what will happen, Dean. There are going to be those people who will pick it up and say, "Who are you? You're just an actor. Just shut up and act." That's sort of the way that refrain goes. And fine, I got that, but then anyone can go write their book if they want to. So this is what I've chosen to write about, and that's what I'm going to do. And hopefully for the most part, it will be received in a positive, or understanding that the intent is positive. That's what I. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for all that. Before we go a little further, I wanted to reset and welcome you to the show. You're aptly named, sir. I appreciate having another Dean on the show. That doesn't happen that often.
No.
And I just wondered maybe we could share a little bit of your life story with the folks. For instance, you were born at an early age, I suppose, and these things.
Born at an early age?
Yeah. In Canada, no less.
Yes.
That's where you were born, at least, right?
Right. Exactly. No, I was born in Prince George, British Columbia. My father was a member of the United States Air Force during those years. And he was stationed in the North Country of Canada, as so many American military members were, because there, of course, during the Cold War, there was this anxiety about the Soviets coming over the North Pole and attacking from the north. And so the United States had a lot of early warning stations across Canada, and my father was stationed in one of those. I was born in Canada. My parents were newly married. I was born in May. By my first Christmas, we had, less than 7 months later, the three of us, my mother, father, and me, were back in the United States, and we were living our life in the San Francisco Bay Area, which is where I grew up. And I'm a fifth generation Californian. My family has been in California since before the gold rush. And
nice. Boy, these are the.
Hang on. Oh, I'm just going to turn this off because it's like it's not. Cool.
These are chimes. That's usually when you're making brilliant points there, but.
How brilliant! Just filling you in on the biography, but I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. I loved growing up there. I grew up in a large multi-generational family. It was the values that I grew up with were very much in sync with what I discovered years later, what I found years later with Little House. I came to feel, and I didn't necessarily think this then, but I have come to feel that, actors, when they walk into a room to audition, are carrying their whole life with them. And you come in the door and people, they get something about you that's fundamental. And they make a million, we all make a dozen decisions about the people we meet in about 10 seconds. We decide all kinds of things. Doesn't mean it's accurate, but we decide things based on our own perceptions, who somebody is and what they're about. And people we meet do that. Audiences on television do that. Everybody does it. And so when you walk in the door, you're just going to be read for what you bring in the door. And I'm so grateful that what Susan Sukman, who was our casting director, and what Michael Landon ultimately saw was someone who could fit into that Little House world. And I think I came by it very honestly in this large multi-generational family, being raised in the country during the summer months, riding horseback and living in a family farmhouse that had been in our family since 1885 with coal oil lamps and no running hot water. And, it was there was indoor plumbing, but it was very, very simple. And I think I learned a lot about family interaction with family, about family cooperation, compromise, learning how to get along with people in the interest of achieving a common goal. And I think we walk in the door with these things when we go to audition. And I, as I say, I think they saw that. And Now, I had never seen the Little House program before I was cast in it. I just did. I mean, I knew it was Michael Landon because everyone in the world knew Michael Landon. I knew that much. I'd seen a lot of promos, but I had not read the books and I had never seen the show. The books were not part of our family reading. Millions of families read these books. We did not read these books.
Yeah.
But I came to realize as I was watching the shows during my first summer shooting, and I was watching summer reruns in those days when we had summer reruns. And I was watching the season 5 shows go by one after the week after week. And I was just knocked out by it. This is beautiful. It's personal. It's intimate. It's honest. It was unabashedly emotional. Everyone had these rich emotional lives. And I think the audience, you could just see watching it why audiences gravitated to this, because it was disarming. There was there weren't a lot of agendas. There was no one who was trying to be cool. There was none of that. It was a very straightforward presentation of storytelling. Mm-hmm. And you knew who the good guys were and you knew who the bad guys were. I mean, this is very much Michael grew up, came into television in the 1950s, late 50s, early 60s, when we're really telling sort of archetypal morality tales, particularly in the Western genre.
Yeah.
And so that's how he came to cut his teeth as a writer and as a director, and certainly as an actor. And I think he just believed in that kind of storytelling really strongly. And the audience just got it. They could see the truth in it, or the heart, the truth and the heart in it. And they came and they stayed, and they've never gone away. I mean, here we are 51 years and counting with Little House, and it just rolls on and on and on.
Let me follow you into that story a little bit farther, because you were mentioning that you'd gone to season 5. So I guess you signed on in the next season, maybe, or something.
I started in season 6. So we were shooting season 6 during the summer season 5 reruns.
Yeah.
I started 2 days after I graduated from college. I went to University of the Pacific up in Northern California, in Stockton, California. Uh-huh. My great aunt had attended Pacific. My great-great-grandfather attended Pacific before it was in Stockton, when it was originally in San Jose as College of the Pacific. I wasn't thinking about that at the time, but so I'm the third generation of my family to, not sequential generations, but the third generation of my family to attend Pacific. And it was a wonderful place to go to school. And I think, again, another piece of kismet, or something that's an interesting little piece of trivia, is that the Little House pilot, elements of the Little House pilot, which was shot during it's actually the winter of 1974. Part of that location was less than 30 miles from the campus of Pacific. So I was close to Little House without even knowing it. Not only physically, but attitudinally, in how I was wired. I was just so in sync with all of that. And it's never been a disappointment. And I've never had to wonder, why. I haven't wondered why this. Well, once you're involved in it, it was very clear to me why I had been hired.
Yeah. Well, tell me about that audition a little bit, because I understand that the brass ring, the big role which you got, wasn't the one you actually went for in the first place. Was there another one that you were trying for?
No, that role on Little House is the only one I had ever auditioned for.
Okay, I read wrong. I thought it was you were going for another character.
Yeah, no, I never was. And now I've got someone reaching out to me.
Okay.
Okay, hang on here.
Sure.
We got to pause for. So your radio audience is seeing and hearing what happens when schedules get crossed out.
No, I apologize. Yeah, for the radio audience, Dean has a bigger name on the other line right now.
No, it's not that. It's
No,
just
no.
it was a commitment that was made, and I'm having to delay it, but that's okay.
No, this is fine. But this is also a testament to how you keep busy. You seem to be, continuing. That's a good thing, I think. You don't want to be idle. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've never wanted to be idle, and so I worked as an actor for the 5 years on Little House. I did another series called The New Gidget. I was Buffy's dad on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh boy.
I went to New York and worked on Broadway for a year, singing 8 shows a week for Stephen Sondheim and James Lapine, doing Into the Woods. I toured internationally in West Side Story. I was doing other things, but in the late 1990s, I really transitioned away from acting more into being behind the camera. And it's really been, I've had so much fun doing that. People frequently ask, what's much more fun? I think that one of the great little secrets of this world is that it's the producers and the writers and the directors that really have all the fun in the business, because they're involved in the creative process in a much deeper way. As an actor, you are the last one hired. Generally, you're the first one done. Mm-hmm. Now, when it's good, you get an inordinate amount of credit for how good it is, and when it's bad, you get way too much blame if it's for its failings. But you're as the actor or as actors, actors are the faces of projects. And so it's natural that you're going to get that connection from an audience. But I think from a purely creative point of view of satisfaction, the people who are working behind it are much more engaged creatively than the actors are. Yeah. If you're an actor on a television series or in a movie, maybe you're acting 2.5 to 3 minutes a day when you're on set. I mean, it's all in. It's a very small window of time. You have to be there. You have to do your work. You have to be ready to go. But it's not the same kind of investment as the person who is toiling over the scripts and writing them, and the person who's directing, thinking about every shot, and the editors who are cutting every frame of film. And now, those days it was with a razor blade, and you're taping the negative together, and it is a much deeper emotional investment, and yet the actor gets all the credit. So I've sort of gotten where Little House is concerned. Because it's been so wonderful, I've gotten a wonderful amount of acceptance and acknowledgement for having done what I did on the program. And I have embraced it on the other side of it. On the other side of acting, I've done DVD bonus content for DVD releases back in the time when we were really doing that kind of content. I did a lot of that. I've voiced documentaries about Little House. I produced a PBS special about Little House called Pa's Fiddle, the Music of America. It was all about a selection of the music that Laura Ingalls Wilder wrote about in her books. I bought a record label that featured that music. I have loved being connected to this. It is, I say it 20 times in every interview. It has been the gift of a lifetime. It really has. It's
been good to you, and you've been good to it, I believe. That's what the point I was making earlier on was you've contributed a great deal to that, as I said in the intro. It's a legacy, and that you have a nice reverence to the whole thing. You take it seriously and lightly at the same time, because it's kind of an honor to be in that position.
Oh, it really, truly is. The way I look at it, Dean, is that the property is bigger than all of us who were involved in it, maybe other than Michael, who may have been bigger than the property. Mm-hmm. But there's nobody else who was involved in it who was bigger than the property. And so I think we have that in common, that we recognize that we are a part of something that has this resonance for people, and those of us who are really continue to be involved on a serious level, we want to continue to make it something that we are able to celebrate with people. And there's nothing like, it's really remarkable when we do these events. And you referenced an event that we're going to do in December in Simi Valley. And if people want to get tickets to that, they can go to Little House on the Prairie, castreunions.com. And there are tickets for that. It's going to be at Strathern Historical Park. There will be 17 cast members there for the event. There'll be episodes and special meal opportunities, sort of entertainment opportunities for people to be involved together in that. But when you meet people who have loved this, you see it in their eyes, and you see the joy that they have. You see the love and the affection that they carry. And it's a very television, like radio, is a very intimate medium.
Yeah.
It's coming into your house. It's right there at the most personal moments you have when you might be surrounded by your family. You might be all by yourself doing whatever it is that you're doing. But television and radio comes in and meets you in whatever state you're in. And I think it creates a kind of a bond that is unique. In entertainment. People really feel like they know us. Now, they do know us to the extent that they know the episodes, but they feel like they know us personally. And one of those things that's so important to me, I always feel like I want people to come away from one of these interactions that we have and know that the people that they've met are the people that they watched.
Yeah.
That there's no air between us, that we were there for a reason, and they can still see that in us and about us, that we believe in it that way. We believe in it the way they believe in it. And to the extent that we are able to do that successfully, we get to see a lot of joy in people's eyes. That's a huge gift to all of us who were a part of it. To see that joy is an affirmation of something that just really feels good to experience. And I will be doing it as long as I can put one foot in front of the other and get to a place and meet Little House fans. As long as people want to meet me, I'll be there.
Well said. I think that's the other cast members probably share a similar sentiment, and that inside they could probably think this has all been worthwhile and continues to be because of the life it's taken on over the 50 years,
It has been very worthwhile for all of us who have chosen to stay involved.
Yeah.
Michael said many prescient things during the time we were all working together, but his sense of television was so keen. And he said to me on one occasion that people will be watching this program long after we're all gone. Well, when I was 25 years old, that felt like hyperbole. I don't know that I quite believed that at 25 years old. Now at nearly 70, I am believing it now because I see it.
Yeah, and you've lived it, you've seen it. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Well, let me pick up the pace because you're going to get out of here really quickly. We talked about the people who named you Dean, your parents, at least your dad. I wonder if they ever dreamed that that you would embark on a unique career in acting. Had they already suspected this? Did you show any signs as a young man or a young boy? Before you graduated high school?
I think, well, certainly before graduating from high school, I had found that I enjoyed performing, but I think as a small boy, they wouldn't have said that about me. It's interesting that I think my parents came upon the name Dean because before I was born, they went to a then and still a famous movie called Rebel Without a Cause.
Oh.
And they watched a young James Dean. And interestingly, I never would have seen a commonality, but from what I knew of my own father, I never would have seen a commonality between him and what James Dean played. it just wasn't, I wouldn't have said that there was anything in common there. But Dad saw something, obviously, and because Dean is not a family name, it's, it had never been used before, but that's how the story goes, is that he thought about James Dean when they were in the hospital naming me, and that's how it happened.
Okay.
But I didn't really think about, I was terrified of standing up in front of people until probably till I was like a sophomore in high school. I was just, I remember having a 3-line part in a play in an English class. I mean, we're talking 30 people in the class. I had 3 lines and forgot 2 of them in the performance. I was so nervous.
This is what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. I was so
nervous.
In
the classroom you talking about?
Yeah. In the classroom. It wasn't even on a theater. It was just in the classroom. And it was just, there was so much anxiety and self-doubt. At that time. A little later, I followed a girl that I had a crush on which is frequently the way a young guy gets into the theater, is you follow a girl you've got a crush on into the theater because she's doing a play or a musical in this case. And
it's always a girl though, isn't it?
Something happens. Well, it's maybe not always a girl, but it's for me, it was a girl following a girl into the theater. Yeah. And we were high school was doing a production of Once Upon a Mattress. And the wonderful musical that Carol Burnett became a star in, playing Winifred the Woebegone and singing I'm Terribly Shy. The song is just called Shy. And she was, if you know Carol Burnett, her persona is huge and funny, broad funny. And that's this girl that I had the crush on, had this very extroverted personality and all of that. And that was very appealing to me because I felt I was wrapped up pretty tight. And getting out on a stage and feeling that light on you. And there is a communication that happens. Anybody who's been on a stage knows this, if you're not so petrified that you're locked off from it. But there's a communication that goes back and forth between an audience and someone on a stage where you're feeling their energy. It is a communication. You're not directly you are talking to them. Their response back is either applause or laughter or whatever the response is, but it's very human and it is very emotional. And I just loved that energy that was coming back and forth across the footlights. And I think and it was really the first time in my life that I ever felt like I was accepted for doing something well. And I think as a kid, there's nobody, when you look back at your life and when you're an older person, you look back at your life and you look for those things. Where did I find acceptance? Where was I acknowledged as being a person of value? For me, it was not necessarily in the classroom, and it certainly wasn't on the athletic fields that my peers and I played on. This was the space where it happened for me, and it was powerful. It spoke to me, and when you get that acceptance, you want more of it. I think it's a very human thing. We go where the response is. If you're the class clown, you want to make people laugh because you get that. You're getting that thing that you're looking for back. And for me, it was that once I felt that applause, it was something I wanted more of. And
that's great.
It's been, I think anybody who does this work can relate to that moment when they had that experience.
Well, you're talking about the human condition, at least I am, but the shyness that you were speaking, some people, it doesn't ever really go away. Like with myself, I'm speaking from experience here. But at that moment, you were talking about the spotlight. Did that sort of break the spell, or does that shyness still remain within you, and you have to overcome it each time?
Yeah, I think that when it's time, I think I have greater access to getting outside of myself. But I think by nature, I tend to be more introverted. But selectively, I can be I can be outspoken.
You can snap out of it like quickly, right? You figured it out.
No, you can. Yeah. No, I mean, and there are people who do it so brilliantly. I mean, I have to work up to it. It doesn't just instantly happen. I always say to people that if I'm going to do something, I've got to rehearse it. I need to rehearse extensively because I need to find this thing that I'm going to do. And the only way I can find that is to work it, and find the moment, find the humor, find the comfort in what, and then once you get that, it's, my God, then then it becomes this wonderful improvisation. Once you find the road that you're going down, then you're free to try a lot of things because you know the road you're on. And that makes it, there is freedom in the preparation, enormous freedom in the preparation.
Okay, two things. We're gonna jump out here real quick. Two last things for you, so we can get you out of here. I could name a bunch of subjects, but the one thing that was of interest to me is your first on-screen role. Would that be Streets of San Francisco? When you were probably about 19 or 20, maybe something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that, because that was like in the last season where they're wrapping up their season, and there's no Michael Douglas left on that show, and but I think the episode that I saw you on was they had some heavy hitters that are still big names today. You had Darlene Carr, you had Don Johnson in that episode, and Richard Hatch. And
Richard Hatch was then at that point was Carl Malden's sidekick.
Yeah.
In those last seasons.
But yours was a bit part, though, I think, right?
It was an under 5. I was doing an under 5 thing. It was the first time I ever saw my name on a honey wagon door, that dressing room. When it drove by, it said Dean Butler on the door. I said, okay, I'm stepping into this now. That was pretty cool. You don't get that when you're an extra. So when you see your name on the door, you feel like, okay, I'm part of this actor group now. That was a big moment. But he was lovely. I mean, they both were terrific. I met Richard Hatch years later doing different things. Carl Malden was just an iconic figure as an actor. You look back at so many of those wonderful films that he was involved with. And then Streets of San Francisco was sort of his retirement moment. He did this.
That's right.
He was so good. And the rapport that he and Michael Douglas had was so terrific. And then the show, you do a show set in San Francisco. The backdrop of the show is absolutely spectacular. I mean, the scenery of San Francisco, those vistas, the skyline, the bay, all of that was just an amazing place to do a television show. And of course, if you were a young actor pursuing a career or trying to step into this, that was one of those few shows that was there on a constant basis. That's where you were going to get hired.
Yeah. How did you happen to get that right away? I mean, that's kind of a cool thing to sort of step into. And that was a top-rated show, right? So
it was at the time. I mean, they were looking for a blonde. I came into television at the end of the time, Dean, when being blonde-haired and blue-eyed there was a lot of currency in that.
Okay.
Back in those years. There's not nearly as much currency in that today. And I think we live in a much more diverse media landscape than we did then. So, I was just part of that thing that was sought at that time. So, that immediately put me into rooms, and look, it was 3 lines. I mean, it wasn't, and I didn't forget them, forget them, got them out. They were very brief lines. It was just really, it was just a fun thing to be a part of. They put the 2 characters were malicious phone callers, and we were harassing an old man who was played by, what was Pat's last name? Pat Hingle.
Oh, really?
Pat Hingle was the victim of our malicious phone calling. And he was petrified because we were harassing him. Now, we never met Pat Hingle. We just talked on the phone. And, So, but as they catch us doing this, so typical of a television show of that time. Here we're on Russian Hill in this very exclusive part, and they plop a phone booth down that overlooks Alcatraz and the Golden Gate Bridge. There would never be a phone booth there.
Great.
But this was a television series, and they're, they want to show this. So here I'm there in the phone booth, giggling with my fellow malicious phone caller, terrorizing Pat Hingle when Richard Hatch and Carl Malden roll up and give us a stern talking to. They didn't arrest us. We were punks. We were these kids. They just said, go home and behave. There was a gentle lesson that when they show their badge, they're serious. And, so we weren't dangerous kids. We were kids that just needed to get a little common sense about what we were doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a fun little moment.
Well, thanks. I always like to hear the sort of like the germ of what's happening, and then now what we know you for now. But last thing, the lady in your life, you married Katherine Cannon, who's an actress who also was in that Michael Landon universe, right? So she became on the Merlin Olsen show, Father Murphy.
Father Murphy, that's right. So I met her when she was auditioning for Michael to play that part. She'd come out to Simi Valley to do her final reading with him. And I just sort of saw her and we sort of said hi, the way people do. Mm-hmm. We didn't speak. And then I ran into her. She got the job, and I ran into her at industry functions and NBC functions with cast. And then we were both otherwise involved. And it wasn't really until 15 years later that we met again when the time was appropriate. And then it happened, we got together right away at that point. And it took 5 years to say I do, mm-hmm. but we got together right away. And it's been, we're going to celebrate 25 years of marriage this coming January, and 30 years of being a couple in April of 2026. So it's amazing. It has flown by. We say to each other on anniversaries, it feels like, forever. It's like it was just yesterday, and it was always. It's sort of it's that thing where there is no life without Katherine. And it's like, how did that happen? You sort of pinch yourself. How did we get to 30 years? But here we are. Yeah.
Time goes right. I'm the same way. As I like to celebrate with my wife the day we had our first date, which was 82. And then in 86, we got married. So we have like 2 anniversaries that we celebrate. So that's been 40. We're coming up on 40 years of marriage. So that's
good for you.
I love it when I love a love story and longevity. And I hope you have a great 25th this next year. I hope it's something very special for you. And don't blow this. She's good to you. She's good for you, I think.
Don't blow this. Thank you. You're right. You're right. She has been amazing for me. She's been a wonderful, wonderful. My God, I mean, the stability that she brought into my life, and it's so interesting what the things that really work in a relationship. There is just something that. There's a grounding that she brought into my life that I needed very much. And she gave me a certain level of freedom to try things that I never would have tried before. And it was her confidence in me that gave me the permission to try things, and that's been amazing.
So there's some more dinging in there. That sounds like some people prying at you. So
I know. Dean, well, thank you, Dean, for having me.
There are a whole bunch of other things I could ask you about. And I know that, maybe we could save them for another time if the time ever comes up, like if there's another one of these reunion things. This one, you were good at telling us where it is and when it is. I'll make sure at the end of the show people see the links and everything to do that. And it's a meet and greet and all kinds of other surprises and great things.
It's Little House Holiday. It's a Little House Christmas, and we've never done that before. And I think Christmas was such a very special part of Little House experience. So we're going to try and bring a taste of that holiday vibe to this event in Simi Valley on December 12th, 13th, and 14th.
You can probably, you probably won't get any actual snow. You'll have to make the snow.
No, I don't think so.
It does get cold in Simi Valley in December, so I understand.
Yeah.
So, Dean, wonderful to have this conversation with you, and thanks for sharing all this stuff. The audience is going to love that because, Gen X and baby boomers like ourselves, we grew up on it, and you were a part of it, even though you grew up and were a part of it. So, you have a unique perspective, and can't wait to hopefully talk to some more of the cast. I've talked with Allison and Charlotte before, but be wonderful to reconnect and hear some more perspective on this thing, because a lot of people know this show and love it over the years, and they take it to heart. So thanks again, Dean Butler.
Thank you, Dean.
Okay. You have a great rest of the afternoon, and you take care of yourself. God bless.
Roy, thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye now.
Thanks for your patience.
No problem. You got it.
Okay.
Okay, good luck for the rest of the day now.